Hey guys, Scott here. Today I wanted to go over the PAX stream that we had for Dead by Daylight. This is important distinction. This is not the anniversary update. I think a lot of people were kind of disappointed with the rushed nature and kind of lack of information about a lot of stuff here. I do need to make it clear, this is not the anniversary stream. Like they're going to go over a lot more stuff and, a lot more details about the new chapter and stuff like that when we get closer to June. This was just a PAX panel that I also thought we were going to get more of. And they even use like the anniversary graphic to advertise it. So it was like a little misleading and I thought we were going to get a lot more. So I will say overall, I was a little disappointed by the stream because we didn't really learn too much new about, the whole Five Nights at Freddy's chapter. We already kind of knew the killer. We already knew the map. They didn't reveal the perks, the killer power, how anything really works. Really, the only cool reveal was the whole Matthew Lillard thing, which is cool. I'm not a fan of his or anything. Not that I dislike him. I don't really watch anything he's in, but a lot of people are excited about that and that's cool. But other than that, I think it was a little underwhelming, at least with the whole Five Nights at Freddy's reveal, because we didn't really learn anything that we didn't kind of already know. So we will get that, I'm assuming, in the coming weeks. But yeah, I was a little disappointed there. But they did talk about a number of things, and I wanted to just summarize those as succinctly as possible and not ramble on here, just to summarize the entire stream. So first up, let's just go in no particular order. The first thing, MMR update. They did say that they are going to be focusing on refining the MMR, doing what people have been suggesting for basically 5 years now, making it not just about kills and escapes, because that is stupid. It's a lot simpler for killer because typically the more things that you kill as killer, yeah, that's going to be a rough indicator of how well you're doing per match. But on survivor, it's just simply not enough. You can't have someone run a killer for 5 gens, die, and then it's a loss for them. So they needed to account for other things that could happen, and hopefully that's more along the lines that they're going for. They did say they're going to be doing this, but this is more of a later thing, kind of like towards the end of the year. So don't expect this anytime soon, but it is good that they're at least finally deciding to, do it correctly instead of having this busted system we have had for the majority of the game's lifespan at this point. So that is the first major thing. Next, let's just go into the map and key changes. They have said that they are going to, in addition to be introducing a new item for survivors that we have know nothing about, as a guess, just a side guess, I think it's going to be the smoke bombs that we had from the events prior. I think those could actually work as a standard survivor item. I can think of add-ons that let you see the killer's aura in it, makes them last longer, changes the color. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with the smoke bomb. So that's my guess for what the new item will be. But the map and key changes, they are going to be making maps more kind of like a windows of opportunity effect where it highlights, vaults and windows and pallets, things like that. And keys are going to be more solely focused on killer or reading. Right now, you can slap a blood amber on a key and do probably what it's going to do in the future. But keys and maps are definitely underutilized, despite the fact that keys with blood amber are arguably the strongest survivor item in the entire game. And maps, depending on the map that you're actually on, can be a very useful solo queue tool. So I already think they're just kind of underutilized and didn't necessarily need buffs, but I'm also not complaining about it. Like, I think that's fine too, but we'll see what they're actually going to do there. 2v8 play while you wait. This is a massive, huge thing. So 2v8's biggest detriment is the queue times. It's 20 minutes for killer. It's ridiculous. So what they're doing now is a really clever system where you can basically queue as killer, but then play a survivor game in the interim. And even during the match, if your killer queue were to pop, you would basically save your spot in that queue instead of just being kicked out of the survivor game. You finish your survivor game, and the second you queue into killer after that game, you get into immediately. This will also help because it'll make more people circle and play survivor as well, which means we're just going to have a more natural dispersion of the player roles, which will also make queue times better too. So I think that's sort of a no-brainer. Very, very good change. I have not a single complaint about that. I think it's a really good idea. Another huge thing, they're doing custom game improvements. Now, they only mentioned here so far that they're adding like more spectator slots, which will make, running tournaments a lot easier for multiple organizers to be in the same game watching it. That's cool and all. I would still love to see a map seed selector. Because I've always thought competitive in this game was a joke, not because the concept of doing it is a joke, but because when you allow for a game with this much RNG to, proliferate its RNG, it just it removes so much of the skill involved. You can have the same exact map spawn just a simple rotation of a tile with a window now facing into Shack can completely change how the entire game is played. And I think relying on that much RNG for, competitive tournaments is not good. However, if they were to allow you to select a map seed, then you could actually have tournament organizers plan out which maps exactly they were going to give survivors, and it would be completely fair. And I think that would be a much more, professional way to do an actual tournament. And the extra spectator slots are nice and all, but that would be the real cementing of, okay, I think competitive's not really a joke anymore. That'd be kind of neat. So I would be completely fine with that. They also said that they were looking into doing custom game modes, like with events, like possibly custom 2v8 and things like that, which would, I think, be really, really cool. I would love to see a 2v8 tournament. There wouldn't be any like camping really. It would just be like all chases. It would be hectic. I would love to see that. I think that sounds awesome. So those changes are cool. They don't really apply to that many people, I think, but I do think they're all pretty nice. They also just casually mentioned seeing teammates' perks. They just threw that in there at the start. So that's something that's going to be happening probably within the next few months. I don't know exactly when, but that is something to look forward to as well. Then there is also the new mechanics on the map. They did sort of hint with a couple of screenshots of the new map that there was going to be a new mechanic. The closest thing, we scoured them, the closest thing we can find was one of the doors had a security key on it. So we're thinking it's going to be kind of Nostromo with the whole hidden Easter egg thing where you can get the security key and open that one door. That might be an actual core element of the map. Additionally, it could be something like there's like a killer room where they can see surveillance. There could also be a room that renders other sections of the map so you can keep track of things going on the other side of the map by killer or survivor. There's a number of things that you can think of with Five Nights at Freddy's and the map and the cameras and things like that where you can have things like this that would make a lot of sense, but it's mostly just speculation at this point, so we don't really know that for sure. This is cool upcoming skins from The Witcher that looked really, really nice. Some of them looked a little weird on the survivors. It looked like dollar store, like, Yennefer and stuff like that. But it's not meant to be Yennefer from The Witcher. It's, it's Kate wearing the clothes of Yennefer. So once you wrap your head around that uncanny valley thing, it becomes completely fine. And the skins themselves are really cool. The Night skin, the Eridan skin, is fucking awesome. It's a shame it's on Night. Night gets so many cool skins, but very, very, very cool. Overall, I think I'm probably going to use the Series Sable one. I'm a Sable simp. I don't know what you want to. What do you want from me? I'm probably going to get that one. So that looked really cool. I typically don't care about skins, but that shit was actually pretty sweet. There was also an interview done with the with Game Rant, which is one of the worst websites ever made. But they actually had a bit of a possible hint about the killer power itself. They said that you can play it as a projectile killer or like a melee or like a chase or loop. The way they worded it is a little concerning because it implies, I don't even know what it implies. The only thing I could take away from the interview was that there is a potential projectile involved. I don't know how they could word it like that because they specifically brought up projectile. I don't know how they could bring up projectile and then have the killer have no projectile. So I think it's the only clue we can have right now. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know shit about Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm planning on playing the games before the actual release to kind of understand what the hell's going on. But I don't know how a projectile would work. They did say there's also going to be a jump scare component, so you would naturally assume there's going to be a stealth element, so a no Terradius mode or something like that. Probably some form of monitoring or something like that. You can kind of guess what's going to happen, but the interview specifically mentioned a projectile. I don't know how that's going to work, or maybe the person doing the interview was just wrong. Who knows? That just sounds kind of crazy there. But overall, I think there's a lot of potential. We just don't really know much else about that there. Other than that, there was a little bit of a hint about the next killer, certain letters during the stream. Basically, in a nutshell, it pointed to The Walking Dead possibly being the running theory for the next chapter. Likely only survivors, but we don't actually know. They said it would be a big IP too, so that is definitely a very likely possibility there. But other than that, there wasn't too much else to talk about that we didn't already know about. So, like I said, I just wanted to go over the summary of the stream as quickly as I could, and hopefully I did that, and that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.